Making headlines tonight. Government prepared for the approaching storm and encourages Barbadians to be ready. 2 new ministers of government sworn in. A groundbreaking prostate cancer study to be done in Barbados. And coming up in sports, Shea Hope gets support from his skipper ahead of the naming of the Windies team for the 3rd test.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. As government continues to prepare for the passage of Tropical Storm Gonzalo, the Minister of Home Affairs, Wilfred Abrams, is calling on Barbadians to take the necessary precautions. Government officials met with all stakeholders in the disaster preparedness effort for over 5 hours today. Minister Abrams says the country is in a better position now than it was 2 years ago, thanks to the work done by the current administration in the initial stages.
Over the last 2 years, over $10 million has been injected into public works for purchasing equipment. There are about 50 water courses, major water courses in Barbados. 49 of them have been cleared, and they're in the process of clearing the last one.
With Gonzalo's path continuing to fluctuate, Mr. Abrams is warning Barbadians against complacency.
Although the system appears to be heading a bit further south than initially projected and to be weakening slightly, the point was made that it is a very small system, and because it is a small system, it makes it a lot more difficult to predict. The system is highly capable of variation, either in intensity or decrease in intensity. So we can't rule anything out, and that is where the problem comes in this particular system. It can increase, it can turn on a dime, right, or it can decrease.
The U.S. Embassy in Barbados has sent out an emergency message alerting Americans that Gonzalo formed and is headed towards the Eastern Caribbean. It has advised its citizens to monitor local and regional emergency management organizations for updates on the situation and for information on emergency preparedness, including the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. Well, here to bring us the latest on Tropical Storm Gonzalo is weather presenter Carrie Ann O'Neill. Good evening, Carrie.
Good evening to you, Shane, and good evening, everyone. Well, today Gonzalo weakened just a bit. At first, it was just around 65 miles per hour. Now it's down to 60 miles per hour. At 5 p.m., the system located at just around 9.8 degrees north, that's 49.4 degrees west. The system is moving towards the west near 13 miles per hour. Now, maximum sustained winds at this time, 60 miles per hour. Now, the island is under a hurricane watch, which means that we are expecting hurricane conditions within 48 hours. Now, what can we expect? We are expecting that the system will continue to move towards the west, and then it will take a turn towards the west-northwest. The system will pass just to the south of Barbados. That's during Saturday afternoon, around 85 miles just to the south of us. We are expecting that it could be a hurricane at that time. Now, although the system has weakened somewhat, it could re-strengthen. We are expecting that it will generate rough seas, and also it could generate some flash flooding. So we are advising those people living along coastal areas to take note of that. And I will certainly have an update later on in the news. Shane?
Thank you so much, Carrie. Well, less than 24 hours after Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley announced her cabinet reshuffle, 2 ministers were sworn in. I was at Government House this afternoon for the ceremony. Minister of Tourism and International Transport Senator Lisa Cummins and Transport Works and Water Resources Minister Ian Goodenough were joined by Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, Attorney General Dale Marshall, Education Minister Santia Bradshaw, and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Senator Jerome Walcott, along with family, as they awaited Governor General Dame Sandra Mason. Just after 3, Her Excellency entered the room to begin the swearing in. Minister Cummins was first to take the oath. She was then followed by Minister Goodenough. The Governor General conveyed her best wishes to the 2 new ministers and tasked them with the job of continuing to do the country proud. Prime Minister Motley says she believes Ministers Cummins and Goodinedjal will add tremendous value.
They both have, as I said yesterday, a distinguished track record in the areas in which they have served as chairman for this government in the last 2 years. And of course, Mr. Goodinedjal is no stranger to public life. When we were last in government, he would have served extensively too. And it is, in my view, a seamless transition for him. Senator Cummins has been working at the University of the West Indies. Their loss is now our gain, and I welcome her to the effort, especially at this very challenging time when Barbados' tourism sector has effectively ground to a halt.
And Minister Cummins says she will be working hard to ensure Barbados can distinguish itself from other countries.
We have to be able to refashion and repurpose new products and put them into new markets. We have to create new initiatives. We have to be able to create new sectors. And one of the key things that we've seen, Dr. Clyde Maskell, who is a member of the Prime Minister's team, he did a seminal body of work several years ago that has always stayed with me, which was on the tourism sector and its wider connections to the economy, how we're able to create those strong linkages with the wider economy to generate foreign exchange, generate jobs, to create new opportunities, new businesses, new startups, and then in so doing drive Barbados even further forward than we can imagine it.
Meanwhile, Minister Goodinedjal says the transformation of the country is a top priority.
The ability to assist with the transformation of Barbados is job number one, and I think we will continue to do so. There are multiple facets associated with that ministry, and we will hit the ground running and do what we have to do to help transform lives in Barbados and to help build out our infrastructure.
Parliament will be prorogued on August 8th with a new throne speech to be delivered on September 15th. The opposition People's Party for Democracy and Development is calling for clarity over government's plans for the creative economy going forward. This following Prime Minister Mia Motley's cabinet reshuffle announced yesterday. One of the changes is the move of Minister of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sports John King to the new role of Minister in the Prime Minister's office. During a PDP media conference, a spokesman on the creative economy, Alan Springer, says no provision has been made for the creative economy.
Is the creative economy no longer part of the cultural ministry? We're asking the question, what is John King's real position, having had his wings clipped? Is he still Minister of Culture? The cultural ministry thus far has not given a vision going forward as to how the country will respond in terms of developing the creative economy as a growing concern for creative artists to make a living from their creative work.
While some action had to be taken on some PSVs, COVID-19 czar Richard Carter says he has received positive reports from the monitoring unit that has been deployed across the island after Monday's announcement of a zero-tolerance approach to the breaching of protocols. He made the revelation this evening after being briefed by the unit.
The COVID-19 monitoring unit has been in the field and have reported high levels of compliance from most of the business places they have visited. There is also evidence of a marked improvement in the wearing of masks on public service vehicles. There have been some instances where violations have occurred, and in those cases, the passengers who were non-compliant were taken off the vehicles and others allowed to go. As we go into the weekend, we know that there are a number of entertainment events planned, and hopefully we will be spared any serious impact from Tropical Storm or Hurricane Gonzalo. Entertainment venues such as bars, clubs, etc. are reminded that the unit will be in the field conducting their monitoring and will be enforcing the law in relation to the protocols. I take this opportunity to urge all Barbadians to complete their preparations for the impending weather and to continue their strict observance of the COVID-19 protocols.
The Barbados Cancer Society is searching for 250 men over the age of 40 to take part in a groundbreaking clinical study on prostate cancer. In what will be the first of its kind outside of Europe or North America, the men who sign up could see the cancer being diagnosed much earlier than normal. Lead investigator in the study, Professor R. David Rosen, tells CBC News once discovered earlier, doctors can use less aggressive methods of treatment, leading to better outcomes for men diagnosed with cancer.
What we're hoping to find is a way of discovering prostate cancer at a much earlier stage so that less aggressive therapy can be used. Now, the other important thing about using it in Barbados, or attempting to find prostate cancer early in Barbados, is that men of African descent have a much more aggressive prostate cancer than other ethnic groups. So it's even more vital in these men to try and find it early.
And with 109 men dying annually from prostate cancer, Professor Rosen thinks Barbados is very fortunate to be involved in the study.
The early tests on what we call a liquid biopsy has shown that it seems to be able to diagnose prostate cancer something like 3 years earlier than previously. And as I said, if you get to a much earlier stage, then much less aggressive treatment. There have been lots of advances in prostate cancer in the last 2 or 3 years. The other thing I'd like to mention is the use of a new protocol on the MRI machine, magnetic resonance imaging. And in London at the Institute of Urology, Professor Mark Emberton has shown that with this new protocol of the MRI, you can actually halve the number of biopsies that are needed.
Members of Barbados Association of Retired Persons will benefit from an agreement it has inked with the Barbados Diabetes Foundation. The BARP members will be eligible for discounts on in-house testing and clinical labor charges at the foundation. The deal was inked by BARP President Marlon Rice Bowen and Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Diabetes Foundation, Justice Christopher Blackman. Chief Executive Officer of the Diabetes Foundation, Callie Boyer, says the arrangement as a significant enhancement to an agreement inked in 2015. He says the Maria Holder Diabetes Center for the Caribbean has been assisting in educating the public about the disease.
Diabetes affects it's not just about amputations. It's about going blind. It's about obesity. It's about lack of education. It's about nutrition. And what this center does is provides all of that for those who live with diabetes.
Ms. Rice-Bowen says the local statistics that 1 in every 5 Barbadians has diabetes is cause for concern.
This figure exceeds the world average. We and the Barbados Diabetes Foundation are equally concerned about diabetes and the devastating social and financial impact it has on our island. We recognize that the financial burden associated with diabetes is a significant issue, and although we don't have the empirical evidence, we do believe that some persons do not access care because of costs.
Correct.
This is why it's important to have the BARP medical insurance, and equally important to be a member of BARP.
Okay, we continue our weekly series, This Is Who We Are, with a look at nicknames.
Have you ever heard a name, but you couldn't quite put a face to that name, only to realize after it's actually somebody you've known probably all of your life, but you only know that person by their nickname? Well, that's our focus tonight, nicknames and why they're so popular.
We used to see them all around, up and down. Familiar faces, the soul of Bridgetown.
Well, I found out quite early that nicknames are popular because, simply put, they are a part of our culture, and each name comes with its own story.
I can start from the beginning. My father used to work at the Roach, and the Roach had a pharmacy. So he used to work in pharmacist, and he used to bring seawater that made the medicine. So they call it kitchen medicine. And as the first lawful child, they named me kitchen medicine.
And you had that name for years?
From the time I was about 9 years old, and I'm 73 now.
Wow.
And much people don't know my real name.
They call me Moose. If you ever give my real name, the boy can know my real name.
And that happens a lot?
Yeah, because once I said Moose, everybody got me there.
How did you get the nickname Moose?
From hard work.
Why?
Because I was so big at the time. I was so big at the time that they call me a moose.
Tell me your nickname.
Charlie Choky. Charlie Choky.
Choky?
Charlie Choky.
Charlie Choky?
Yeah, that's my fan name, so they call me fan name, that nickname.
And why Charlie Choky?
You know, call the fighting in school. They tell me Charlie Choky for a lot of time. Choky Charlie. That's the nickname.
What's your nickname?
They call me Blinks.
Why do they call you Blink?
Well, my eyes cross, so that's why they call me so from birth coming up. Yeah. And that just take on. So I answer to it.
Candidi, Virgin, Ermala, Deuce, Philomena, and Smellers. Boise, Cranker, Ding Ding, Ginger Gaga, and Capescalers.
And your nickname?
Roots.
Why do they call you Roots?
Well, I was given the nickname when I was about, say, 2 years old. I was rather small, so the guy that gave me the nickname just gave me the name.
Called you a club?
Yeah, I guess so. So it stayed with me till I'm 43 now, so it stayed with me all that time.
And everybody, you think that a lot of people know your real name?
Well, probably people that went to school with me and grew up with me, but I don't think a lot of people know my real name. They just know me as Roots.
Pitbull.
What do you call you Pitbull?
I'm very aggressive, don't have a nonsense. I don't take a 6 for a 9, nor E for a 3.
And then short man.
Well, actually, as you can see, it come natural. Because I'm short, it fit for itself. Every nickname have a similar fit itself. So mine is very straightforward, short man.
Short man or?
Pitbull. Bark a lot and bite.
Where they gone, where they gone? The characters of the city.
And of course, there were some other interesting ones, but they simply weren't suitable for TV. Nevertheless, there's no doubt that when it comes to nicknames, well, this is truly who we are.
My favorite characters of the city. Kennedy, Virgin, Ermala, Deuce.
LA Blinks bad. Well, coming up, the court battle to settle the Ghana elections continues on Saturday. Then we have sports a bit later on. But before we get to all of that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Before the arrival of a hurricane, you should prepare a detailed emergency plan, which should be shared with all members of your household. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now, Ghana's Court of Appeal will hear arguments in the Masenga Jones versus the Ghana Elections Commission and others case on Saturday. The Chief Elections Officer has opted not to participate in the proceedings. NCN News reports.
Senior Counsel John Jeremy, who will be representing the applicant in the case, has 30 minutes to present his argument, while respondents have 20 minutes each. During the case management conference on Wednesday, Attorney General Bassa Williams requested permission by the appeal court to file a cross-appeal of the High Court's case.
We have several grounds of appeal. We challenge, and of course, the decision in relation to Order 60 and all the matters that are said to be res judicata. The question of Section 18 and Article 177, the constitutionality of those provisions.
Justice Dawn Gregory says that she's looking to make haste in giving a ruling on the case, which she says is of national importance. The appellant in the case, Masenga Jones, has until 12 hours on Thursday to submit her argument, while respondents in the case have until 3 hours on Friday to submit their responses via email to the court. The appellant also have until midday on Friday to file her cross appeal to the court, while respondents have until 18 hours on Friday to submit their replies to the cross appeal. Attorneys are allowed to submit no more than 10 pages consisting of their arguments to the court via email. All the participants in the case include GCOM Chair, the People's Progressive Party, the Citizenship Initiative, a New and United Guyana, Liberty and Justice Party, the New Movement, as well as the United Republican Party.
Sargassum seaweed is having an impact on fishers in Antigua and Barbuda. That country in recent times has seen an accumulation of the seaweed, as we hear in this ABS TV report.
They might not be able to access their vessels like they would have. They wouldn't be able to safely navigate through the area to get out to the fishing grounds. And you have issues of fouling of the propellers or damage to propellers as a result of sargassum.
Deputy Chief Fisheries Officer Tricia Lovell says as the seaweed breaks down, there's also a concern that it will affect electronic equipment aboard fishing vessels. She says the fishermen are also raising concerns about the environmental impact of sargassum. Lovell says in areas where there is a high concentration of sargassum seaweed, there are also low oxygen levels in the water.
As the matter breaks down, you create dead zones. So you have very anoxic conditions being created in the immediate environment. You have fish dying, lobster dying. You have things that might get trapped, so turtles might get trapped or entangled in the sargassum.
The influx of sargassum, however, is a double-edged sword.
What they have found in some respects, when it's offshore, when it's free-floating, it actually attracts fish, and it attracts a lot of juvenile fish. They've seen it in Barbados. I think we've had fishermen reporting the same here.
Waves of sargassum seaweed normally originate from the Sargasso Sea in the North Atlantic Ocean. Lovell says this time the seaweed is originating from a different location.
And it's actually transatlantic, so it's almost like a belt across the southern Atlantic, stretching from Brazil to off the coast of Africa. What scientists have been finding is the level of the sargassum influx might be dependent on how big that belt of sargassum is in the South Atlantic.
Cuba has been able to send thousands of doctors and nurses overseas to help other countries fight COVID-19. The island continues to record huge success containing the virus domestically with a rigorous active screening campaign and strict restrictions.